few moments, make sure that everything is running, and then it's going to give me the time, formatted elapsed time, to say how long it took to run and everything. Okay, so we've seen this before. That's what we're going to be using, of course, to run, right, through our to run it. So now we're going to go ahead and say run it. How do we do that? I'm going to say wait completion, and then I'm going to pass the client, which is going to be our client, and let's pass the thread ID. It's going to be thread ID, and let's pass the run ID, which is going to be run.id as such. Okay, because we have the run here. Okay, and of course, if you want, we can check the run steps logs, and this, we've seen that before. So there we go. So very simple. Let's go ahead and run this. Most importantly, we'll know hopefully that we're going to be able to push this cryptocurrency PDF file into OpenAI embeddings, right? So it's going to go into all the things that I've showed you before, what happens in the back end. And we should have an assistant. Let's go ahead and run this real quick. If all goes well, we should be able to go. So I'm going to say Python 3. That's that, and run. So we get some things here, but let's go ahead first and get the assistant ID. So we copy that and add it here. Let's get the thread ID and put it here. Okay, so that next time we can run things differently. So let's go to OpenAI here, the assistants in the back end. Let's see if this actually worked. If I go ahead and refresh here, we should see indeed that we have Study Buddy. This is our new assistant. There is the ID and everything is good. If I click, of course, we have all that information and the model that it's using. And most importantly, we see that the retrieval is ticked, as well as the cryptocurrency PDF file was uploaded. This is real great. We knew this would happen, of course, but it's always nice to see. And most importantly, it says assistance response to document understanding cryptocurrency by the University of Kentucky, blah, blah, blah. So it goes through all the things really and does a summary of the everything, okay, which is good. And also we have the run steps, and voila. So nothing new what we're seeing, but most importantly, we know that things are working because we got the document uploaded and it's part of the knowledge base now. Okay, let's go close this. And now that we have the IDs, right, so we don't have to go back and recreate the same assistant, we're going to hard code them here. This is just for testing purposes. And now we no longer need to create this. So I'm going to go ahead and comment this out, as well as comment this out. And what else? I'm going to comment this out also, because we don't need that. So now, before we run, I can then create the actual message. So I'm going to say message is equal client beta threads messages, and I'm going to create a message, which means I need to pass the thread ID, right? And the role is going to be user, and content, this is where we pass our message, which is the query per se. What is mining? Okay, so now you should get an answer of what is mining because we have added or pushed into the embeddings, right? The file, in this case, the PDF file about cryptocurrency. So it should know how to answer to that. Let me go ahead and save this, make sure everything is good. Okay, so everything seems to be great. Let's go ahead and run again. So that means now we should be able to see the answer pertaining to what is mining. So it's going to go and look at the document that we uploaded and answer according to that document. So assistant response, mining is a process through which cryptocurrencies can be obtained. It involves the creation of blocks and blah, 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 and everything. It tells us that this was actually able to get the information from that PDF file, which is wonderful. So this is working. So there we go. It's very simple. If you go back to the code here, you can see we still have one, hopefully just one, because we didn't repeat things, right? We have study body and everything is there. And if I click, I should have still the file, and I can upload as many files as I want, of course. We'll get there, but the basics is here. So you're able to see how to get, in this case, retrieval the knowledge retrieval, how to get this to work by uploading a file, a PDF file, to enhance the knowledge base for our Assistance API. All right, there you have it. Now that we know how to upload files and converse, per se, ask questions about that file, in this case, the PDF file that we uploaded, in conjunction with our Assistance API, it is time for us to do something a little bit cooler, which is to build our study buddy. So the idea is we're going to upload the file, the one that we uploaded now, and maybe another file, and then start chatting and asking questions about those files or those PDF files, documents. Let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create yet another file to differentiate a few things. So I'm going to say main.py or py. And the differentiation is going to be a little, I would say, minimal. So let me get all of this code from the app file and pass it over. So we have everything here. Let's see. And actually we need to get the IDs because we need them. I'm going to copy that and put them here. And in this case, we no longer need that. So let's just get rid of that altogether. All right, now because the nature of this application, this is going to be a Streamlit application, there are a few things that we need to do to set everything up. So the first thing I'm going to put here is the nature of Streamlit is that we need to make sure that we have sessions. Anytime you hit enter or click a button in a Streamlit application, what happens is that it's going to go ahead and reload the entire application, the entire view or the entire window, which is not what we want. So I'm not going to go into this whole session thing with Streamlit. Just this is going to help us, especially when we want to create this chatbot using Streamlit. And the great thing also about Streamlit is that all of that is included. So there is actually a chat form that we can create quickly with Streamlit. That's why Streamlit is pretty cool. Okay, so first I'm going to go ahead and initialize all these sessions that we need. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting an if statement here. If file _ID list. So this is going to hold all of the file IDs because potentially we can upload more than one file, and not in st.session state. If that's the case, then we're going to create that session state.file IDs list, and that's going to be just an empty list. Okay, we just have to do this. And I'm going to do another one as well. So if start chat, which is going to be part of a button, really, not in st.session state, st.session, that start chat, I'm going to just say is going to be false. And what else? Now I'm going to use the thread, if thread ID, not in session state, and then we're going to say st session state dot thread. Okay, very good. Those are the sessions we need to set up. Okay, we're going to go straight and start setting up the front end, in this case the page. So I'm going to go ahead and just say set up our front end page. And to do so with Streamlit is extremely simple. I'm going to say st and then set, there's a function called set page config. And here we can pass a few things. So I'm going to say page title, say study buddy, say chat and learn. That sounds very good. And page icon, we can actually pass an icon here like this, books. Okay, so just put, this is the icon representation of a stack of books. This is where we're going to start our function definitions, etc. So essentially, this is where the fun will start. So the first thing we need to do is to figure out a way to upload a file to OpenAI, which we know how to do that. So I'm going to go and define the upload AI. So we need a file path. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. We've seen that before with open and I'm going to pass the file path, and then say RB, and I'm going to say as file, and I'm going to say response. In this case, I'm going to go get the client, files, create, and then pass the file, which is going to be just the file that we have here, we got here, right? And then I'm going to get the path, or read actually, because it's going to come in this case I want it to come in as bytes, okay, stream really. All right, and then of course I'm going to pass the purpose. It's going to be assistance, and what I want to happen for this function is I want to return the actual ID. So I'm going to say response.id. So this will return the ID of the file that was uploaded. Very simple. And next, what we'll do here, we're going to create a sidebar. Okay, the sidebar. Say where users can upload files. So here I'm going to say file upload. I'm going to put that in a function. So I'm going to put that in a variable because we want access to that. So file upload, and to generate a sidebar in Streamlit, again, very, very simple. So we just say st, that's sidebar as such, and I'm going to say dot file uploader because we want actually a sidebar with a file uploader, and we can pass some text to say upload a file to be transformed into embeddings. In a real application, obviously, you probably don't want to talk about embeddings because most users won't even care, but it's okay, we're here. And then I need to pass here a key just to say something file upload, and that's that. Now we're going to also add a button that says when click, then they can actually upload the file. Okay, so this is going to be just the interface where they can upload a file, right? Drop the file, and then we need to allow them to click to say actually want to upload the file that we just dropped here. Upload file button, and we can also store the file ID. So I'm going to say if st, that's sidebar as such. I'm going to create a button, and this is going to be upload file, and this will make sense once you start seeing things, but I hope you're seeing the pieces coming together. I'm going to say if, in this case, file uploaded, this should be file uploaded. Okay. If there's something there, if file, let's see, uploaded, there we go. We got to go ahead and open file uploaded in this case and get the name, and this should probably be f string, and we need to pass that we want to say here we want to write this as a binary. That's why we're going to say wb write as binary, rb is read as binary, as we saw earlier here. Okay, and all of that as f, and I'm going to say f that write. I'm going to write that file uploaded. Okay, and I'm going to say get buffer. And in this case here, there are times when also we want to allow users to upload more than one file. So I'm going to just say something like maybe another file ID, and I'm going to say uploaded. Let's say upload. I'm going to call the upload to OpenAI, and then put an f string here. And this, I'm going to pass the file uploaded and get the name as such. And let's make sure that we take care of the session. So the session state file ID list. Let's say file underscore ID that list doesn't give me IntelliSense. That's okay. And I'm going to append, let's see, file ID list. Make sure I have that file ID lists, file IDs. So let's be file ID. Okay, there we go. And we're going to append our another file ID as such. And SD, I'm going to create that sidebar and write something to it, which is going to be file ID, and then I'm going to pass another file ID as such. So essentially we're just writing on the wall, on the sidebar, the ID of the other file ID that was added. So each time we added a file, and then we can see all those IDs. Okay, so what I want to do next is I want to display those file IDs. So I'm going to make sure, again, look at session, state, file ID list. If that's all good, then I'm going to go to sidebar and write, in this case, uploaded file IDs. So this is where we're actually showing the things, really. And then the bottom we say for file ID in session file, make sure I get the right list. Okay, because it's going to be a list with all those file IDs that have potentially been uploaded. And I'm going to write into the sidebar again, and I'm going to pass the file ID. Now, once we have these file IDs, we need to associate them to the current assistant. That's very important because each assistant can have multiple files. Okay, so how do we associate them? So I'm going to write here, associate each file ID with the current assistant. Okay, so I'm going to say assistant file, really, and say client beta and assistants dot files, and I'm going to go ahead and create. To create a file, as you know by now, we need to pass the assistant ID, which we can get by say assist ID, right? Oops. Assist ID, and then we need the file ID, which is going to be file ID that we have there. Okay, so that's how we associate that each file that we add is going to be associated to the correct assistant. Okay. Next, we are going to go ahead and say button to initiate the chat session. Okay, we're getting there, okay? So I'm going to put in if statement. So you'll notice that in Streamlit, to start, in this case, to initiate something, a handler, right? A button click handler of some sort, you say st, put an if st, that's sidebar, that button, and I can say start chatting, and this is where we handle the click. Okay, so first we need to make sure that all the files have been uploaded. That's very important. So that we can check that by saying st, go to session state, and then file ID list. Okay, make sure that we have that session, which means we have something, and then we're going to make sure that our session state for start chat, in this case, is going to be true, because that means we have everything set up for things to get going, because we've just clicked. So that means we have the file ID session, which means we have IDs. That means then the session for the start chat has to be true at this point. Okay, so now we're going to create a new thread. We could create a new thread, or we can just go ahead and use that same thread. That's okay. We're just going to go ahead and create a new thread for this chat session. Okay, so again, nothing new. You know how to create a thread, so I'm going to call this chat thread, and so I'm going to say client, or yes, client, go beta threads, and create a thread. Okay, now we have that thread. Set the session again of that thread. This is very important. A lot of sessions here for the reason I said. So that's just how Streamlit works. And session state, and I'm going to use the thread ID, and I'm going to pass our chat thread that ID. So now we have set the session for this whole thing, the thread ID session, to the thread ID of this newly created thread. Okay, I'm going to write something to the wall. All right, so I'm going to say thread ID, and I'm going to pass the chat.id, chat thread.id. Notice that we're inside of this if statement here that handles the on click, and then else, if none of that is true, I'm going to go ahead and just say something st.sidebar.warning, right? We can just invoke a warning, so the text is going to be red-ish, and I can just say something, no files found, please upload at least one file to get started. All right, very good. So we're making real good progress here. So one thing I want you to keep in mind is that as we pass these documents to the embeddings, the OpenAI embeddings, so we are able to attach all that information to enhance, as I call it, the model, so we can converse or chat with it. Whatever comes, when we ask a question, whatever comes, the result, the response, it also has other metadata such as citations, okay? To say, okay, this information that I got it from this place in the document. Now we have a very simple document, but you can imagine if you have a very large document, then this could be very helpful. And so what I'm going to do here, just in the interest of time, I'm going to paste in a helper function that will essentially process message with citations. Okay, so it's very simple. As you see here, extract content and annotation from the message and format citations as footnotes. So it goes through, gets the content that we get as a response, right? And then goes through and looks for certain annotation, looks for certain attributes in the message, the whole payload, where we see annotations. And if it sees annotations, of course, it creates those annotations, goes through, creates the annotations, and so forth. So now there are some limitations because we said that we can pass different files, right, which we will see. But in this case here, for retrieving decided files, we're going to do things, we're going to use some dummy way or dummy data to get that going. And I'm hard coding here just for testing purposes. I hope by the time at some point, once this Assistance API is mature, we have ways to do certain things such as calling the cited files details instead of us having to do all of this. Okay, so but this is just to give you some ideas. Now again, this is not perfect code. It just works for what we're trying to do here, to give you some ideas. Okay, so in this case here, for the file name cited file, we are putting in this case the cryptocurrency PDF, right? Hard coded it, again, not a good idea, but that's what we're doing anyway. Okay, so that's what we're doing, and then we append, we have the citations list here, and as all of that is happening, we're retrieving all those annotations, and we're appending all of them so that everything is set up. Okay, so that's what we do, and after that we create a footnote in form of a full response, and we get that information, we put it all together, and then we'll return that. So that is essentially what we're doing in this process message with citations. Let's go ahead and continue putting together the front end, the API, okay? Or I should say the page itself. So I'm going to say so here is where I'm going to put the main interface so we can actually see things. Okay. So I'm going to use Streamlit again, and I'm going to add a title for our page. Call it study body. Now notice the difference here. I'm adding the title before we're adding the title to the page configuration, which is, those are two different things. And if you want to learn more about Streamlit, which I encourage you to do, you can just Google real quick or Streamlit and then go to documentations. It is the most simplest, straightforward way to create prototype applications. Okay, so it's very good in Python. And I'm going to also Streamlit here. I'm going to write something here. It's kind of like a subheader, and I can say learn fast by chatting with your documents. Okay, good for marketing, I guess. Okay, next we are going to again check a few things, check sessions. to make sure everything is good so we can proceed. So first we're going to check that the chat is not already in session. So to do so, we're going to say if st, go to sessions, that chat, start chat. And if there is that session, so if there is a chat session, that means things have started. So now I'm going to go initialize them. And this, now we're going to go ahead and initialize our model. So I'm going to say if OpenAI model not in session. Okay, I'm going to say st that session state that OpenAI model. I'm going to just say this is going to be the ChatGPT or GPT 4, like that. So we're using the preview. Okay, and that's the only thing that actually works with what we're trying to do. If you try to do GPT 3 Turbo, 3.5 Turbo, it's not going to work. And also I'm going to check messages not in st session state. Then I'm going to say session state messages, set that to empty. So this is going to help us, of course, with the bot, with the chat bot. All right, so then go ahead and show existing messages, if any. So for messages in st that session that messages, and I'm going to now invoke the chat. Notice that this chat, this is what we're talking about. Notice, as I said, we don't have to do anything really when it comes to creating a chat box per se. Streamlit has that. So I'm going to say dot chat. Right, it's part of the framework, so I can go ahead and say chat message. All right, look at that, and I'm going to pass the message, or message in this case, and get the role. This has to change to message. Okay, singular, and then we're going to go ahead and add that. And then we're going to write the content inside of a markdown. Okay, so I'm going to say message and get content of that message. Okay, so now we're putting together the actual chat, and this will make a lot of sense once we start running this. And I apologize, there's a lot of code, but believe me, this is going to work. Well, we hope. Okay, so now we're going to chat the user. So now we are going to go ahead. All right, now we're going to go ahead and say chat input for the user. So this is where they're going to add something to as a prompt. So I say if prompt, in this case, st.chat prompt, look at that. We have chat input as they call it. That's the beauty of Streamlit. I'm going to say what's new. That's going to be the first thing they will see. So what's new? All right, which will allow them to then add a user. So next I'm going to go ahead and add user message to the state and display on the screen. So I'm going to put session messages, and I'm going to append. In this case, I'm going to pass in as a dictionary. So first of all, do role and user. Okay, it's going to be user for role, and then for the content, that's where we're going to pass the actual prompt. We're going to say chat messages or message, and this is, we're going to show that this is the part where the user, so we have the user, so this is the user chat message, and we're going to write that using a markdown, and we're going to pass that prompt. So now we're going to go ahead and add the user's message to the existing thread. How do we do that? Well, we're going to use client, go beta, and go to threads and messages and create that message. And how do we get, or what is this, what do we need to create a message? We need a thread ID. So we're going to go through our session again, because that's what's driving everything. And go get a thread ID. And we need the role. In this case, going to be user. And the content is going to be our message. Oh, actually, it's going to be our prompt, right, to create that message. Very good. Okay, we're getting there. Next, we're going to create and run. Create a run with additional instructions. Okay, so I'm going to say run. Again, nothing new here. Beta, threads, runs, and create. I need to pass the thread ID. So I'm going to go through the session state again. Get a thread ID. And then assistant ID. We pass the assist ID. And then we're going to pass instructions. I have the instructions. For the instructions. And then let's pass the instructions which I have here. So please answer the questions using the knowledge provided in the files. When adding additional information, make sure to distinguish it with bold or underlined text. Most likely they won't do that, but it's okay, just to make sure we can distinguish things. So next, what I want to do is I want to be able to show a spinner as all of this process is happening before we get to the actual response. So that's good user interface addition. So show a spinner while the assistant is thinking. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to say with spinner. So I say spinner, and it's going to say wait, generating response, such. And then inside here, I'm going to put a while loop. So I'm going to look at the run, right? So